So far so good. We have incorporated Selenium in the project. Okay, we have incorporated Selenium in the project, and what we can do now is we can study the concept of object oriented programming. I'll create a new class over here, fine, and I will name that class as Nishal, I'll just answer a question, give me some time, right? I'll name that class as, say, mobile, fine, right? Or in this class what I'll do is I'll make a variable, say string, the name of the mobile, okay, and int price of the mobile. Technically these variables are known as non-static global variables. What static is, what non-static is, this is all part of object-oriented programming, fine. So these two variables are technically known as non-static global variables, okay, fine. And if I make a function, say public void print, okay, in this function if I write system.out.println the name of the mobile, name, right, so this function technically is known as non-static function, okay, right. So in this mobile class I have got two non-static global variables. Global means these are not inside the function, they are inside the directly inside the class, parallel to the function, okay, and this is a non-static function, fine. I'll create a new class known as, say, or let us use test.java only, fine, let us use test.java only. In test.java what I'll do is I'll do something known as create object of mobile class, fine. How do I create the object? You'll have to write new mobile. When I write new mobile, you are creating the object of the mobile class. Okay, this is the syntax. Syntax means this is the way it's written. Right. Now what happens? What do you mean by creating the object? What happens in the memory? In the memory what is happening is that an object is created. Inside that object, name, price, and the print function which was there, all these three things come inside that object, okay. Just by writing new mobile you are able to create the object, but this object is not accessible, fine. This object is not accessible, you have to have an object reference to access this object, okay. What I mean to say is that you will have to write, say, mobile m equals to new mobile. When you write like this, okay, you actually create a reference m for this object, okay. This m reference will point towards this object, okay. This m reference will actually point towards this object. Now you can again write mobile, say m1 equals to new mobile. So suppose this is m1, this is m2, fine. So what will happen is that in the memory you will have two objects created, okay. The objects will have the properties like name, price, and the print function, fine. So m1 will point towards the first object and m2 will point towards the second object. M1 and M2 are not objects. M1 and M2 are known as object references. Okay, with M1 and M2 you can access the internal contents of the objects like name, price, print and all. Each object will have its own name, own price, own print function. Fine. So if you write over here M1 dot, you get the option name. Okay, I'll give the name as Samsung. M1 dot price, say 10. So what will happen is that in the memory the name for M1 will become as Samsung and price is 10. Okay, now in M2 dot name is say iPhone and M2 dot price is say 20. So what will happen is that this name will become iPhone and the price will be 20. You agree? No confusions? Right? So each object can be differently initiated. Okay, the variables are same, name and price. If you look at the mobile class, you just have two variables over here, name, price and the function print. Okay, but each of these variables you can have a different value in each of these objects. Okay, if I write over here m1 dot print, and if I write over here m2 dot print, so what will happen? If I run this, M1 will print Samsung and M2 will print iPhone. Okay, M1 will be printing Samsung and M2 will be printing iPhone, because in the print function I am printing the name. When M1 calls the print function, it prints the name for M1. When M2 calls the print function, it prints the name for M2. So this is a simple example of object oriented programming. Create the object of the class, you initialize the properties and then you use those properties like I'm printing. Fine. In Selenium also you do the same things. Right now I have created the mobile class. In Selenium you have inbuilt classes for whom you actually create the objects. Right. For example, I created the object of the date class here. What was it doing? It was printing the date. Date is an internal class in Java language. Fine. If you look at Selenium, I'll create a new class over here and I'll call it Selenium Basics. Fine. Now in Selenium you have a class, internal class known as Firefox driver. Okay. You create the object of that class. Alright. You get error. Okay. If you just create the object of that class, no reference. Right. Move your mouse over the error and import it. You get the import option, provided you have the jar files included in your project. Okay. If you run this, it will open up a blank Firefox window. You'll see that it will open up a blank Firefox window. Fine. So just by creating the object of this class, fine, just by creating the object of Firefox driver, fine, I am able to launch a blank Firefox window. So it's inbuilt. Fine, this is inbuilt. Now what if I give reference? Okay, what if I write over here Firefox driver, say f equals to new Firefox driver, right? And then when you write f dot, you will see all the non-static functions which were there in the Firefox driver class, right? There's so many things available. Okay, you have access to all of them. For example, there is a function known as very simple function close. Fine. As the name suggests, this will close the browser. Fine. So if you run this program, it was quite fast or something. Hold on. It's opening and it closes. It will close immediately. You see that, right? So pretty simple. Fine. If you write a function like f.get, the get function inside Firefox driver will actually take you to a particular URL. You can write over here http yahoo.com. Fine. Now yahoo.com, when you write, make sure you mention the protocol. People don't mention the protocol and they get the error. Fine. So you should not do that. You should always mention the protocol, and when you run it, you'll see the browser will open and it will navigate to a particular website. Fine. This is because we are calling the get function, which is non-static, inside the Firefox driver class. Fine. See, yahoo.com opens. Okay. Right. Now this is pretty simple. Fine. Not a big deal. I just had the mobile example. This was mobile class. It had non-static global variables and non-static functions. Fine. And I created the object of this class and I was able to access everything. So with object, okay, by creating the object, you can access all the non-static variables and functions in the class when you create it. Fine. So what about the other ones? Static. If I write over here, say static int number of batteries. Fine. So this variable is known as static global variable. Fine. Or if you have a function like this, public static lift call. Right. So this is a static function. Now what is static? Okay. Now there are some things in a class which can be common to all the objects. For example, I am creating two objects of mobile class. Right. I can create 100 different objects. But a property like number of batteries in a mobile class, number of batteries will always, in a mobile number, there is only one battery. Right. So if I don't have this variable static, what will happen? If I don't have this variable static, I will have to write with every object that m1 dot number of batteries is 1. Fine. Then again m2 dot number of batteries is again 1. This makes no sense. Number of batteries is a property which is common for all the objects. Okay, the value is same. Fine. So what we can do is we can make it static. When we make it static, okay, technically in the memory, number of batteries variable is stored at a common location in the memory. Number of batteries variable will be stored at the common location. That is, this location would be common for all the objects. Okay, right? And to access this variable, you don't need the object of the class. You can directly write over here mobile dot, you will get the option number of batteries is 1. That means the name of the class dot the static variable. So static variables and functions, they can be called directly with the class name. But for non-static variables like name and price, you have to create the object of the class. Okay. You can also write over here mobile dot lift call. Call lifting functionality is there in every mobile. Just taking a hypothetical example, and you can also call this function. Right. So a static property is something which is first of all common for all the objects. Secondly, it can be accessed with the name of the class. If you go to Selenium basics file, I had this Firefox driver class. I created the object. After creating the object, right, I can access all the static properties of this Firefox driver class. Sorry, non-static properties of this Firefox driver class. Right. If I write Firefox driver dot, you will get access to all static ones. Right. You will use them as well. Okay. So static properties are something non-static properties are something which can be accessed only by creating the object of the class. Static properties can be accessed with the class name dot, and they can also be accessed with the object. If I write f dot, I will get the static properties in the end. You can access static properties with the object as well, object reference f, but you should not. Static properties should always be accessed with the class name dot. Any questions in this? Anything? So there are two types of properties. Okay, two types of properties in a class. One is static, one is non-static. A global variable can be non-static or static. A function can be non-static or static. If you have to access the non-static members of the class, okay, you have to create the object. If I have to access the name and price, fine, I will have to create the object. Okay, if I have to access the name and price, I will have to create the object of this class. Alright. If I have to access the static property, I can directly access it with the class name. This is how static is accessed. It can also be accessed with the object, but you should not do that. You should do it with the class name. Alright. Fine. Now, so this is the Firefox driver object. I created it and I took it to yahoo.com. Similarly, if I have to work with Chrome, fine, you have a class known as Chromedriver. Okay, you create the object Chromedriver, say cd equals to new Chromedriver. Okay, you import this class on the top, right? You can import it by moving the mouse over the error which you get and select the import option, right? Or you can hit the keys if you're not imported it and if you have to import everything. Suppose I have not imported anything, I get error over Firefox driver as well as Chromedriver. You just hit Control Shift and O of your keyboard. This is the shortcut. Control Shift and O. Everything will be imported. At times, what happens is that your colleague has made the file. Fine. He mails you the file. Fine. Some imports are missing. You don't know what kind of imports are missing. So you just hit Control Shift and O of your keyboard. Everything will be imported. Right. These imports are from jar files. Okay. So you hit the Control plus Shift plus O. Right. So you create the object of Chromedriver over here. I'll just comment out Firefox driver. I will not use it as of now. I'll concentrate on Chromedriver. Fine. You create the object of Chromedriver and give it a reference, and when you run this, you will get an error. Everyone will get this error. The error is path to driver executable must be set by this property. Okay, fine. I'll tell you. For Chrome, you just cannot directly work on it. You have to download a file. Fine. You have to go to the website seleniumhq.org. Fine. You need to go to the download section. Fine. Over here you will see that third party drivers, plugins and all not developed by Selenium HQ. So this is the Chrome plugin which you need to download in order to work with Chrome. Fine. You need to click here and go to downloads. Go to this link. Fine. Download the latest one 2.9. Depending on your OS, Windows 32 zip, 32-bit will also work on 64-bit. Okay, just need to download the zip file, and I'll just download it and go to the location where I have downloaded it, cut it, and put it over here. Fine, and extract it. Extract here. When you extract here, you will get a file known as chromedriver.exe. Okay, you don't need to run this exe. Don't run this. You need to set it in the system path in your code. You need to write over here before initiating Chromedriver object. You need to give the command system dot set property. Okay, the property name is WebDriver.Chrome.Driver, and in the value you need to give the path of Chromedriver exe file. In my PC, Chromedriver exe is lying at this location. Sorry, you have to give double slash in Java language as an escape sequence. Okay, so you give the path of exe file and with the property WebDriver.Chrome.Driver. System is an internal class in Java. This is an inbuilt class in Java, and set property is a static function inside it. If you move your mouse over this set property function, you will get this static variable over here. Fine, it will describe the function. This is known as Java documentation. Okay, so this is a static function inside system class. That's why you are able to directly call it. Fine, and you set the property. Okay, so system level properties can be set in Java, and you set this property, and when you run this, you will see Chrome opening. Okay, and you can also give the command if you want to go to any website, Chromedriver.get to the URL http, say anything, yahoo.com again. Right. So when you run this, it will open up Chrome and it will take it to yahoo.com. Alright. So similarly, there are other drivers as well. I will talk about them. Sorry. There is something known as Internet Explorer driver. I want to talk about it right now. I'll talk about it tomorrow. Actually, my eye has got corrupted somehow, so I am not able to talk about it right now. Tomorrow's class, I'll get my eye corrected. Right now, other drivers are there. Safari driver is also there for Safari browser, but for this is not stable. Okay, I've seen that this is not stable. Simple things, they don't work on Safari driver. Fine. So this is not stable at all. And then you have got something known as HTML unit driver, which can actually do the testing without opening the browser. The HTML unit driver is there. So there are various types of drivers available for different types of browsers and testings. Fine. We just saw two of them. Okay. You need to create the objects of these driver classes, and you can actually work with Selenium. Fine. Now, uh, moving further on, right? The question which comes into our mind is that whether all these driver classes will have their own set of functions, right? If you talk about Firefox driver, fine. Will Firefox driver have a set of say 50 functions, and will you have to learn all of them? Or say Chromedriver, when you write cd dot, you get so many internal functions, right? Will you have to learn all of them? Fine. Or if you have Internet Explorer driver, Safari driver, HTML unit driver, so will you have to learn all the functions? There is also something known as remote WebDriver, which is used with GRID. This is used with GRID to run the test cases parallelly. Okay, so this is a big problem. Fine. Well, the answer is no. You don't need to learn the features of each and every driver class. Okay, there is a concept known as concept of interfaces in object-oriented programming language, which actually help you to that concept actually helps you to get rid of this problem. Fine. So I talk about that concept, but before that, just a quick question answer session. I was being asked a question. Uh, Hold on. Let me answer questions. Where is webdriver.chromedriver.package? There is. You don't need to worry. This is a system property, Praveen, which you need to set. Okay, there is no package with this name. This is a property name. Okay, right. Did you get my point? So this is just a property name, no package name. Fine. So another question being asked is that which is the best framework to learn in Selenium? Okay, this question is a little out of the way, but I'll answer it. Look, there are many frameworks in Selenium. If you look at the website, fine, and there is a data-driven framework, fine, like I've covered it in video number 20. There is a hybrid framework. There is a framework known as page object model. Okay, a very strong concept, a very strong concept. Okay, there is a BDD framework. So there are a number of frameworks available. Fine. If you're a beginner in Selenium, I would say that don't think of doing very complex things. Okay, try with small things, gain some confidence and go forward. People tend to work on this framework generally, hybrid framework, which is a mixture of keyword and data driven. Fine. Look, if you're a beginner, I would say start with the data driven framework. It's a very strong concept. Data driven framework, it's a very strong concept. You can start with this, and later on you can upgrade it to other frameworks as well. And it's quite simple one as well. So in the training we will be covering these things and you will come to know about it. Fine. Okay, there is a question being asked, what is WebDriver backend or Selenium backend? It is not WebDriver backend, it is WebDriver backed Selenium. Okay. Now what is the problem is the problem, I'll tell you the problem. The older version of Selenium was known as Selenium RC. Okay. The new version of Selenium is known as Selenium WebDriver. Okay. Now people used to use Selenium RC, they made a lot of scripts and all. Okay. Now if you want to migrate your code from RC to WebDriver, okay, or say you have instances wherein a certain portion of the project is implemented in the new version WebDriver and a certain portion of the project is implemented in RC. Okay, you need to communicate, you need to have some kind of communication with them. So for that we have a class internal class known as WebDriver backed Selenium. This is an internal class in Selenium, like Firefox driver is there or Chromedriver is there. Fine. This is the WebDriver backed Selenium class which helps you to communicate between 1.0 and 2.0. This is what it is. Okay. Overall, I'm just giving you an overall picture. Fine. Alright, so another question being asked is please direct your questions to everyone when you ask it. Fine, in the WebEx chat. What is a framework? Okay, fine. I'm really sorry. I did not answer that and I told you that okay, there are these kinds of frameworks and all. Look, I'll tell you what is a framework. Fine. If you have a project, okay, in project you have got say 1000 test cases. Okay, these are your test cases. Fine. Test case 1, test case 2, test case 3, test case 4. Fine. You need to run these test cases one after another. Fine. Apart from that, what else you want? You want that certain reports should be generated. Okay. Probably XML based reports, XLS based reports, HTML reports. Fine. Various kinds of reports you will want, which will have the description of the failures and the past test cases and all everything. Fine. And you would want to have also some say logs generated. Logs means if your script is running for 3 hours, right? So you will have similar to server logs, the logs which are generated on the servers, right? Similar to that, the logs will have the information that what happened in each and every minute or second when the script was being executed. Fine. Then you would want that you would want to take the screenshot of errors and all and store the screenshot at certain locations. Fine. Then you would want that when the script is over, automatically some kind of mail should be sent to your team members, which will have the reports in them, the HTML reports which you generated. Fine. Then you would have a requirement that when you are running your test cases, you want to read your data from XML files or XLS files or properties files, right? So there are various types of files from which you would want to read your data, pass it over to your test cases and all. Fine. So to collaborate between all these things, so to make this everything work together as an engine and all, we use a central tool. Okay, these tools are like JUnit. Okay, or people also use TestNG. Fine. People use Cucumber. Okay, or Fitness, BDD tools and all. So there are a lot of tools available. What these tools do is that they do the collaboration work. They will get the data from the Excel file. They will call the respective test case and pass over the data to the test case. Fine. And they will call the test case in a certain order, that these test cases are executed in a certain order. Then when everything is over, it will generate the reports, logs and all. It will make the reports. Fine. So this is a very generic picture which I am giving you. Okay. Overall engine, this complete thing is known as a framework. Okay. This complete thing when you code and you make, which we will be doing in this class as well, this is known as a framework. Now there are different types of frameworks. Okay, data driven is there, keyword driven, hybrid, page object model and all, right? And different types of frameworks use different types of tools. Some use JUnit, some use TestNG, some use Cucumber, Fitness, right? It depends. Okay, and Selenium as a tool is present only in this section, this blue section. Only the test cases will be implemented with Selenium. So if you are learning Selenium, it is just not Selenium which you have to learn. You will have to learn how to read Excel files, XML files, logs, reporting, these tools like JUnit or TestNG or Cucumber or Fitness. Fine. So this is what we are going to do in this course as well. This is the motive of this course. So first I'll talk about Selenium and then I'll move over to the other parts as well. Alright. Any questions from anybody? Anything? I hope you got my point, right? So fine. If you have any questions regarding course, regarding anything, you can just let me know. Okay, right? So I'll go back to Eclipse now, right? And I will tell you what we did. We created the object of mobile class and we saw what non-static and static variables are, right? And you can actually use the same concept in Selenium as well. In Selenium Basics, I saw that we created the objects of internal classes and we opened up the browsers. Fine. Okay, there's a question being asked. Getting data from Excel is taken by JUnit, not by Selenium. It's not taken care by JUnit. It's not taken care by Selenium. We do it by using another API known as the POI API. Okay. Yeah, I will tell you framework in this session. Yes, I will tell you, but I will not directly. Don't expect me to jump over to the frameworks directly. I will not jump over to them directly. Okay, because most of you will not understand what I am doing then. Fine. Whatever I am teaching, I record the sessions. I would request you to please go through the recorded sessions every week because you know what? From my experience, I have been training people since 3 years now. On the very first day there is the maximum strength and on the very last day there is the least strength. The reason behind is that people don't follow up during the course, they don't practice and they lose interest as you proceed. Okay, otherwise it's a very interesting tool. Okay, if you practice, right? Nobody can teach you this tool, right? If you want to learn it by your own, you can also learn it by your own, but it will take you some time. Fine. Through training, the only difference is that get to do many things at a very faster rate than you would have done it yourself. Fine. And nobody can teach you this tool. You have to put in your time and your efforts, and we are there to just guide you. We can tell you that this thing happens like this. But in the end, if you don't sit down and you practice, nothing is going to happen. Fine. People, they have got various motives when they come to me. The motive is somebody has got a motive that he or she has got a project and they are stuck and they just want to learn Selenium and implement the project. Sometimes people come to me that they want to switch their jobs or get a new job by learning this tool so that they can upgrade to some better location or better pay package, right? The thing is, learning this tool is not tough. Learning this is simple, but learning this to a level which is required to clear an interview, okay, that takes time. You can learn Selenium in 10 days, but to learn it to a level wherein you can sit down comfortably in an interview, answer the questions, it will take you at least 6 to 7 weeks of rigorous practice. Alright, fine. So, okay. Okay, fine. Let's start with another thing, small thing known as the concept of interfaces. Fine. What do you mean by interfaces in Java language and how they are used? Okay, I'll just tell you. Interface is like something which is abstract, something which is not complete. Fine. For example, when you look at my website, when you go to my website for the first time, what did you look? You looked at the course, right? This is like an interface for my website. You know the topics are listed over here, but you don't know how they are implemented. Okay, looking at the interface, you can get to know about what stuff is doing. For example, when you buy a new book, you read on the last page of the book, right? And you just read the summary that what this book is all about, and then you decide whether you have to buy it or not. So this is what an interface means. Fine, it gives you a summary of what something is supposed to do. For example, I create a new interface over here. Fine. I'll name that interface as say animal. Very simple. Fine. Public interface animal. In this I will declare some functions. For example, public void eat, public void sleep, public void run. So interface is abstract. It gives you a generic definition what an animal will do. An animal will either eat or sleep or it will run. Fine. There is no method body inside interface. Okay. There is no method body inside the interface. Right. Then why do we create an interface? Because if you look at the interface, you will come to know what the application is supposed to do. Animal application is supposed to do three things: eat, sleep and run. Fine. Suppose if I create a new class now and if I name that class as dog. Now dog is an animal. Fine. So you can write over here public class dog implements. This is what we write. Implements animal. Okay, what do you mean by writing implements animal? By writing implements animal over here, I am telling Java that dog class will mandatorily, listen to the word mandatorily over here, will mandatorily implement all these three functions of the animal interface. Okay, if you move your mouse over the error, you will get an error and select the add unimplemented methods. You will get all these three methods automatically generated and the error will go. So if a class is implementing an interface, it is supposed to implement all the functions which are present in the interface. It cannot say that fine, I will not implement one of them and I will implement two. You will get an error over here. Okay. So if a class is implementing an interface, it is mandatory for the class to implement all the functions. Fine. What is this override? You can remove it. It's not necessary. But this is known as an annotation. This tells the layman, if you look at the dog class, this will tell a layman that this function eat is coming up from the animal interface. Okay. So what we created was we created an interface known as animal. Right. Then we created a class known as dog. So animal had three functions: eat, sleep and run. So mandatorily dog class was forced to give the body to the three functions: eat, sleep and run. Okay. What is the use of this? You will come to know in some time. Right. Suppose if I make a new class, right, and I name that class as say cat. I'm taking pretty simple examples, right? Now cat is also an animal. You will write over here cat implements animal interface. So cat will also be forced to implement all the three functions eat, sleep and run from the animal interface. Right. Eat eat can be implemented by cat in its own way and probably dog can implement eat in its own way. So what happens is that this function also comes up in the cat class. Eat, sleep and run. Okay. So what is the use of this? The use of this is that all the animals which I am going to create will have same functions in them. I will not have to worry that tomorrow if another animal comes up, what will be the functions in that class, right? So the name of the functions will be same. There will be a kind of you can say uniformity in my whole project. Okay, right. Bhakti, I will answer those questions. I will not answer those questions right now. What is overloading? What is overriding? And what is the difference in them? You'll come to know gradually. Okay. Overriding is something like this. You override the function from the animal interface in your dog class. Okay. This is known as overriding. That the function is coming from the parent interface, which is animal, into the class. The advantage is that you have the same set of functions in all the classes. Now, how this is useful in Selenium? Okay, if you look at the Selenium documentation, now this is the documentation, right? In this documentation, these are all the classes on the left hand panel. Okay, the names which are written in italics are interfaces. These are many classes, you don't need to remember all of them, right? Whatever is written in italics is an interface. For example, mouse. Mouse is an interface. If you click on mouse, it will load interface mouse. All the implementing classes are event firing mouse and HTML mouse. These are the functions in the mouse interface. Click, context click, double click and all, right? Okay, mouse functions are there, interface mouse, right? So these are the implementing classes. Similarly, everybody has heard the word about WebDriver, right? What is WebDriver? Technically, WebDriver is an interface. Okay, it's got functions like close, find an element on the page, get the page source, right? Quit, fine, get the title of the page. Generic functions are there inside the WebDriver interface. And all the classes like Chromedriver we studied Firefox driver, okay, Internet Explorer driver, HTML unit driver, Safari driver, remote web driver. All these driver classes, okay, they implement this interface. So that means the function names in all the driver classes will be same. You don't have to worry that if I have to click on a link in Chrome and if I have to click on a link in Firefox, okay, will the command for Chrome driver and Firefox driver be different? No, the commands will be same because the name of the functions in all these classes will be same because they are implementing the WebDriver interface. If you look at the code which I made, okay, so I created the object of Chromedriver and I wrote Chromedriver.get to this website. So get function was actually taking me to yahoo.com. Similarly, I created the object of Firefox driver and again I wrote Firefox driver.get, f.get. So get was the same function in both these classes, right? It was taking me to the URL. Okay, so you don't have to worry that what will be there inside each and every driver class. Inside each and every driver class, these will be the functions which are mentioned in the documentation. Okay, we'll study this in depth, right? We'll meet tomorrow, we'll study this in depth. You'll get a new invitation by email with the new link for tomorrow's class. Okay, please note in trial class maximum 25 plus students are allowed. First two classes are trial, tomorrow is the last trial class, right? So